Hey everyone, welcome once again to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I'm your host Caleb.
And I'm Lincoln.
Alright, so we're going to start things off a little bit differently. We're not going to go straight into the news. I know. We're going to just talk about what we've been up to this week, whether it be Star Wars or not, I guess. And
especially since in my case it is definitely not.
And just catch up and maybe give you guys something to talk about with us, even if you find interest in what we're talking about. So what have you been up to? I mean, we've had spring break this past week, so...
I've mostly just been hanging around my house doing a bunch of chores, but I did have one day where I had my best friend over. We devoted an entire day to marathoning the extended edition of the Hobbit films. She arrived at my house at 8 o'clock. We started watching the films at about 9:30, and she left my house at 8:30 that night.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And that is accounting for the many pauses and breaks between the films.
Yeah, I've been playing the Lego Star Wars game, which we were talking before we started recording, and I've been having fun with that. I'm realizing how much I hate some of the levels again. I'm realizing some of the levels that are in the Complete Saga edition that weren't in the one I used to have, because I used to have just the original one, which just had the prequel stuff. And there's a level that I don't remember in it that was in Episode 2, which is the chasing... Zam on the speeders.
Oh yeah, that level wasn't in the original one.
Yeah, that one was added into the Complete Saga, which is what I got.
My favorite level in the original was always the pod race level.
Yeah, they have a newer version of that, but they also have the original one. If you complete enough things, you can play the original one. I haven't been able to play that yet, though. I did unlock it, but I haven't played it. I want to get through the storyline first. So that's been my objective. I've gotten through all of the prequel stuff. So now I'm on the original trilogy. I beat the first level of that, and it's been fun. I do realize how much I hate, which level was it? The Episode 2 level where you're chasing Count Dooku in the Republic gunships.
I hate the gunship level. My brother, whenever he was playing it, it took him 3 days to get past that level. I
also dislike the very first level of Episode 3, which is the space battle. Because if you, unlike the other levels that you've played so far, if you die, you don't continue right where you were. You have to continue at the beginning of a checkpoint, because it's more of a rail system for that level. Whereas the other levels, even the other vehicle levels, were a little bit more equally set up. Although the pod race level, I think, was similar.
Yeah, the pod race level, you started off at your previous checkpoint.
Yeah. So let's get into the news.
THR has released a report of the latest Han Solo shortlist for the Young Han Solo spin-off film. They were able to pull only 3 of the actors off this list, and these actors include Alden Ehrenreich, who was recently in Hail Caesar as the cowboy, Jack Rayner, who played Shane Dyson in the most recent Transformers film, and Taron Egerton, known for Kingsman and the recent Eddie the Eagle. THR has said that these are probably not the only ones left on the shortlist, but rather the only names they could obtain due to the high secrecy of the project. Disney has declined to comment on this piece of news.
Han Solo casting, that is... man.
It's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, especially since now there's been the release of Disney announcing that they're going to do Indy 5. And there's rumors that if they don't just bring back Harrison Ford, which that's been the major story so far, if they decide to go with the younger one, there's been rumors that they're just going to pick whoever gets the Han Solo role to be Indiana Jones as well.
Which makes sense.
Yes, but it also puts a lot of pressure on whoever gets picked.
Well, when you think about it, Indiana Jones is basically just... Well, Han Solo is basically Indiana Jones in space, when you want to think about the actual character.
Now, do any of these names stand out specifically to you, like as someone that you think could pass this off?
Taron Egerton is probably someone that I would lean more towards.
Yeah, I mean, Taron Egerton has been the big choice for a lot of people I watched, especially at Collider. And they've been wanting him for a while. He's been one that hasn't been on the list so far that we've heard of until now, which means he was probably on the list beforehand, we just didn't know. They probably already picked him out, if I'm going to be honest. They already picked out who the actor is, because by the time we're hearing this, they already know who they want.
Yeah.
That's usually how these work, especially when it's down to just a handful of actors.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we first heard it was thousands of actors, and I was like, have fun picking that out, Disney. And now it's down to about 3 or a couple more, depending on how many names are left on that list that weren't pulled out.
Honestly, at this point, I think it comes down to who's the biggest Han Solo fanboy.
Yeah, or who can do a good, not impersonation, but recreation of the character, because that's the biggest problem, is people are going to be trying to impersonate him, but an impersonation doesn't lead to a good recreation of the character.
Yeah, which, if you want a good example of someone doing a recreation of doing a younger version of the character, you can always look at Ewan McGregor doing young Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and he was a great example of a good recreation, because he wasn't just impersonating the character, he brought his own stuff into it.
Yeah.
And he sort of evolved into Obi-Wan from episode 4.
You can actually see the transition in as he goes through the film, slowly drifting more toward the Alec Guinness one. Especially in episode 3, he has so many of Alec Guinness's mannerisms.
Yeah, he took those on and he made it part of him.
He said basically at least once a week, just to sort of motivate himself, he would sit down and he would just watch a whole little loop of Alec Guinness footage.
Now, no matter who they pick, I'm not going to be disappointed. All 3 of these are decently picked actors. I mean, Disney knows what they're doing. They so far haven't messed up Star Wars, so I'm trusting them. So I'm trusting them to do a good job, because they took extreme care with the episode 7, and this won't be their, and they've done such a good job with their other properties. I trust them on their casting skills. Alright, let's move on. Well, despite some weather issues, Rian Johnson's team finished filming what they needed to at Dubrovnik for episode 8 this past week. Unfortunately, no Ewoks were spotted, nor were Mark Hamill, Daisy Ridley, or John Boyega. However, their doubles were on location, probably due to most of the shots being stunt work. So, Dubrovnik.
Dubrovnik.
Alright, so I just showed you a clip from that we did off scene, and it was actually a pretty interesting thing of seeing someone get force pushed, and it sort of proves that this is probably mostly stunt work. And
I'm 90% sure that the person that got force pushed was supposed to be Luke.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that they were wearing Jedi robes.
Yeah. I mean, it was a far off shot, so it's hard to tell for sure.
Well, yeah, but I'm pretty sure, I don't think that Rey or Finn would be wearing the Jedi robes.
No. But I mean, it could have also just been somebody else. Unfortunately, no Ewoks, like I said.
No Ewoks.
So our Space Bears theory has not been confirmed yet.
Not yet, but it has not been disproven.
Nope. We just need to make sure there's some indoor scenes, that's all.
Please!
Or maybe an Ewok gets off of Endor for all we know. I mean, maybe Wicket snuck off. I mean, there were
Hitched a ride on the Falcon.
There were rumors that what's his name, the actor who plays Wicket.
I don't remember.
There's rumors that he's on the episode 8 set, and so I mean, Ewoks.
Maybe.
Or he's just playing another character because he's played like a character in almost every Lucasfilm film.
Forget that. Anytime they need a short person, he's there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was there in episode 1. But yeah, no Daisy Ridley, no John Boyega, no Mark Hamill, so that's sort of like a big bummer in a way. I mean, this isn't really something that's exciting, but it's also sort of exciting, because they finished a part of the movie. But I mean, not a big part either, from the sounds of it. Honestly, I'm along with some of the people at Collider who were talking about this story as well recently, in that I want more Rogue One stuff again, rather than this. Where's the trailer? Give us the Rogue One trailer.
At least give us a teaser.
Yeah, at least just show us what you showed at Star Wars Celebration last year. I mean...
something.
Yeah. But, I mean, what do you take out of this? I mean, there's really not much to go on.
You pretty much said everything I was thinking.
Yeah. So, next story.
BioWare released a trailer to their newest chapter in Knights of the Fallen Empire storyline, Visions in the Dark. The trailer appears to take a focus towards your inner conflict with the former Sith Emperor Valkorion, as well as an external conflict with his daughter, Valen. It's due to come out April 7th for anyone subscribed to the Old Republic. So, why am I leading this off? You're the one who actually plays this.
I mean, but you sort of play it, you just haven't caught up to me.
Are you kidding? You're a subscriber.
That's why you haven't caught up to me. But, I mean, you played some of the Jedi stuff, so you understand at least a little bit.
I played to level 10.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's about That's about 1/6 of the game.
I got to Coruscant. That's as far as I gotten, people. You want to yell at me? Fine.
It's not that big a deal. Yeah, I mean, I like this trailer. I just like Valkyrie and stuff. I'm glad we're getting back into that because the last few chapters have been surprisingly absent of the evil voice in your head telling you to do bad things. Because he's sort of, one of the big I mean, it's not really a spoiler, happens within the first 10 minutes of the new expansion. Valkyrian dies again. But yeah, he's died like 3 times in the entire franchise so far of the Old Republic. Just in this one game alone, if you include the expansions as part of the one game.
One of those villains.
Yes, he's one of those villains, but it's okay. We love him anyways. Because he has body swapping abilities. Because technically this was his second body. But anyway, so now he's been in your head throughout the storyline, and he's been trying to get you to work with him to kill his children. Because his children are, well, to put it bluntly, they're spoiled.
They're brats.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, you didn't even kill Valkyrian this time. His son killed him, and then you got the blame. Well, it depends on your decision, actually. You killed him or his son killed him. It depends. My decision was to not kill him, so, well, no, I killed him. Correction.
I was like, yes, you did. I watched that bit.
Yeah, I was the good guy on that one. Because I wanted to work with his son, because his son seemed nice at the time.
And then son straight up murdered a dude.
But yeah, and then he blames you for it and puts you in carbonite. Anyways, so the big ongoing story arc within the expansion has been Valkyrian trying to get you to go to the dark side and use his powers to expand upon your powers, whether you're a Force adept or not. You get to use the Force depending on if you accept his deals or not. I have been strong enough to not accept his deals so far as my Jedi Knight. My Imperial agent, on the other hand, has accepted his deals numerous times. But my
What do you expect? It's an Imperial agent.
Yeah, but actually some of the Imperials have reasons to not like him. But that's more story specific. So I'm interested in that because I sort of want to see more of that inner conflict of choosing to be a better person or choosing to accept the power despite the cost that it might come with. And it looks like it's going to focus specifically on that storyline for this chapter, especially just by the name, Visions in the Dark. Valen, on the other hand, is his daughter, one of the children that are brats. And she's really powerful, so I don't think we're going to kill her in this chapter, but I think we're going to fight her and get our butt whooped big time. Because we already saw her fight her mother. I'm not going to say who her mother is because that's a big spoiler. But she fights her mother, and her mother barely wins. And so this will be interesting because you are technically the hero depending on your alliances. And it's your job to try to stop her, so let's see.
At the very least, you're the protagonist.
Yeah, you're the protagonist. So it's going to be interesting to see how that fight turns out. Mm-hmm. I mean, so we'll see how that goes. This past week, Rebels took a focus on the droid Chopper. In the last episode, he ended up giving the Rebels a location to a planet they believed to be safe to set up a base at. Star Wars' YouTube channel released a preview for this week's episode, The Mystery of Chopper Base, in which we see the planet is not so safe after all, as Sabine and Rex find themselves fighting unknown creatures. Alright, Rebels.
Rebels!
So, you haven't watched anything so far of Rebels, but...
Except the clips.
Yeah, except the clips, which aren't really major spoilers, I mean...
Not really. The only major spoiler was, oh hey, Ahsoka's here, oh hey, Rex is back!
And honestly, even if you haven't been watching the show, you probably already know that stuff. Just because you're in the community of people that talk about it.
You know.
So, Rex and Sabine seem to be in trouble, though, this week.
Whoopsie!
There was another clip they showed. I didn't get to show you that one. And it showed an awesome scene of Kanan and Ezra doing some Jedi training before they get to the planet. So I'm sort of interested to see that dynamic as well. Because we've gone without some actual training for a while. Although Ezra's had plenty of on-the-job training fighting the Inquisitors. But Sabine and Rex seem to be in trouble from some creatures that, for the most part, people haven't really seen. But there's a lot of rumors going around of what fans that are like in my level of fanship know what they are. They sort of look like the Kinrath from Knights of the Old Republic, which are like these spider-like creatures that, and they're.
I think they looked more crab-like than spider.
Well, crab, spider-like. It's a mixture, sort of.
It's an arachnid.
It's also a pain in the butt to fight, so I can see why Rex and Sabine might have trouble.
Yeah, these things just look like giant hermit crabs.
I do find it funny though. I know I've shown you or at least you've already seen the 2.5 trailer where they showed like everything that was going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that this scene, the clip that they just showed this week for the next episode, has that scene that made everybody think Rex was going to die. It has that clip where Sabine's like, Rex! And it's like, oh, so they really took that out of context.
Very out of context.
Because everybody thought that it was during a fight that he was with, during the Inquisitor fight we're probably going to see during the finale. And so, I mean, that's really out of context when you look at it now.
Because honestly, it's like, I realize he's technically in danger, but also it's kind of just funny because you see Rex being carried off the back and like, get off me, you stinking Corona!
Yeah, and you know Rex isn't going to go down without a fight. And he's a really tough guy, and he's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially with Sabine, who is Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other thing that's interesting is this episode sort of, I'm talking to you, Collider Crew, who didn't like the last episode with Chopper. I like that episode. And this upcoming episode proves why you should have been happy about last week. Because it wasn't a lot of the big problems that people saw was that it was a filler episode.
It's not!
It's not! It's leading into this episode, which is part of the greater plot of finding a new base for the rebellion. And, I mean...
I think they were just tired of all the leg puns.
Well, no, it was really a lot of the Chopper stuff. I mean, Chopper's not exactly a fan favorite character. He's a studio favorite character. Dave Filoni and everybody at StarWars.com loves Chopper. I mean, if you've watched any of their Rebels recap, you'd see that because they make Chopper they give Chopper his own segment in the recaps. So, I mean, I can understand why there's some backlash to that episode, but I still liked it. And I did like the character they introduced, AP5, which is sort of a C-3PO character they brought in, but not really. He's an Imperial droid that Chopper becomes friends with. We talked about this a while ago. And they sort of have a C-3PO R2-D2 dynamic while still not being quite C-3PO and R2-D2. Because Chopper, you've seen him, he's a little bit grumpier.
A little?
He's a lot grumpier. They also gave some good backstory to Chopper, which was like the fact that he was part of the Clone Wars and why Hera...
Chopper is basically R2-D2 without his coffee.
Yeah, I mean, and they gave some good background to Chopper, which makes you feel sort of bad for him, and you understand why he doesn't like a lot of people, except for Hera, because he was abandoned during the Clone Wars on the Battle of Ryloth.
Oh.
And so, and Hera found him when she was young, and she took him in and rebuilt him and everything. And so that's why you have that dynamic. And you meet AP5, who was also a part of the Clone Wars, and now has been relegated to probably going to be shut down soon by the Empire, because he's now part of the Empire, and so he's going to be shut down and replaced with a newer model. So they sort of have that bond right there. And I'm glad I'm not going to talk about it. I'll talk about it when we review Rebels, which will be a lot later. But yeah, so I mean, this really shows that episode last week wasn't really just filler. It was leading to something, and I think it was worth it.
Thanks to our friends at Star Wars Newsnet, we have word of a new synopsis to the upcoming Star Wars novel Bloodline, which will be written by Claudia Gray, best known in the Star Wars fandom for her novel Lost Stars. The synopsis is as follows. The entire generation has prospered during an era of peace. The New Republic, governed by the Galactic Senate on Hazian Prime, has held power for more than 2 decades. The wars that divided the galaxy are fading into legend, yet conflict has begun to take shape within the Senate. 2 unofficial but powerful factions have formed, the Populists, who believe individual planets to retain almost all authority, and the Centrists, who favor a stronger galactic government and a more powerful military. As the political gridlock threatens to cripple the fledgling democracy, centrist leaders have called for the election of a first senator. It is their hope that this powerful position will bring order to the divided Senate. But populists like Senator Leia Organa Solo know all too well the price of such order. Even as the election nears, the divisions between the worlds of the galaxy are growing wider.
This book.
This book.
I am excited because I liked Lost Stars a lot. Which we'll get to once again when we review it. That's the thing. That's the big thing, is reviewing a lot of stuff. Claudia Gray did a really good job with Lost Stars. And I was glad to hear that they brought her back for another book. Because, I mean, I think she deserved it. Because Lost Stars was more of a junior novel. Like, it was a young adult novel, not a junior novel, but a young adult one. So it was it wasn't published by Del Rey, who does most of the Star Wars books. I forget who published it. It was like Penguin or someone else. Within Del Rey, but not Del Rey themselves. Like someone that Disney has deals with. And so Del Rey brought her in for Bloodline, and I was excited because I heard it was 6 years before The Force Awakens. And that's the closest we've gotten so far to The Force Awakens in terms of like novels and stuff so far with the new canon. So I'm excited for this book. And I guess some of my excitement sort of dropped in that the way it's sounding, there's going to be no Kylo Ren stuff. We're not really going to learn about Ben that much. But I understand why. I think they're going to leave that for the films.
Well, the thing I think is interesting, with the way they're setting up the Centrists, it seems to me like eventually these Centrists are going to be the ones that break off and form the First Order.
Actually,
I mean, like, obviously, I'm not sure if that's true, but the way they're setting them up, it sounds like it sounds like they have the potential to, if not, like, start the First Order, at least, like, give them a lot more power and influence.
I think the Centrists are the people that, I think at this point the First Order's sort of already been coming into power. I think this is going to be more about the Centrists being the people that were refusing to listen to Leia on the idea that, hey, these guys are a problem that we need to deal with.
Which means that this book, at the very least, will probably at least show the beginning of the resistance.
Yes. And I think that's going to be the major focus. There was another synopsis that included a sort of an antagonist character, I forget his name, and he was a collector of Imperial relics. And that sounded pretty interesting, because he sounded like a Palpatine, but without the Force to ally him. He sounded like someone that I could hate. Essentially, and I could root for Leia to beat within the Senate, and I like the idea of this because I'm one of the few people who likes the politics within Star Wars. I'm one of those few people who actually love seeing it, but
I do agree they can go overboard with it.
Yes, I do. I agree with that, but I think Clone Wars has shown that they know how to sort of weave it in a little bit better, because this sort of goes along the lines of more of political spy drama type storytelling.
Which is a lot of what they would do whenever they would do episodes focused on the Senators in Clone Wars.
Yeah, I think the problem with the prequels in comparison was that it was more of a... It wasn't as politically drama-based. Well, it wasn't as interesting, I guess, to some people.
It was a lot of talking.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of I wish that some of the deleted scenes that they had filmed were brought back in, because there were some really good deleted scenes of political stuff that would have made it a little bit less dull.
And maybe if they had taken some of the scenes and replaced them with deleted scenes.
Yeah, because I know there was the one scene where in episode 3 that they were showing a young Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Padme sort of forming an early version of the rebellion, but at the same time not trying to become the Separatists. And that was an interesting scene to watch, so I can see why this could work. Because Leia's sort of dealing with the same things as Padme, in that people just aren't listening to logical sense. I love, though, that I was reading comments on Star Wars Newsnet, which gave us the source for this, and I think it's interesting that some people are already drawing lines to real-world politics through these groups. Like, they're saying, oh, the centrists are like the Republicans and the populists are the Democrats in some ways, and in other ways they're the other way around. But someone actually brought up a good point in the comments of that they're sort of, the centrists take the worst of both sides, whereas the populists take the best of both sides. And it's sort of funny, because it's like, yeah, we can, like, the centrists have all of the stuff that we argue about that we're not quite sure about yet. Whereas the populists have all the stuff that we, for the most part, agree on. So it's going to be easy to like the populist characters. But at the same time, I don't want it to be too easy to like them, because I want some gray area.
Because every side has extremists, so we need to have at least one extremist in the populist side to sort of like they say that, hey, I realize that say like, hey, not all of us are good.
Yeah, it's sort of funny though that Leia is a populist, though, because according to the way that they describe the centrists, which are more military in belief in that they want a military again, Leia wants a military again, at least later on. Not yet she doesn't, but she does later, and I can see her sort of flopping back and forth between the sides and being like, well, I want the powerful military, but I want the planets to still have their own way of living. So I can see the conflict that she'll be having as well. Because I remember in Aftermath, I believe.
I think eventually we'll come down to the point where it's like, well, which one do we need more right now?
Yeah, because I remember in Aftermath they got rid of the military entirely, and that's one of the big things. Because Mon Mothma in Aftermath was like, oh, we don't need a military anymore now that we've essentially, like, as soon as the Empire was gone, she was like, yeah, we're done. No more military for the most part. I mean, if you want a military, it's going to be planet-based. It's not going to be galactic. So that's interesting that we're going to see Leia sort of want to bring that back. Alright, it's time for everybody's favorite part, or at least my favorite part, the review. This week we'll be reviewing Season 3 of the Clone Wars.
Time for review!
Alright, so this season was titled The Secrets Revealed. Is how they subtitled it when they first started the season, and they were right. It is a Secrets Revealed season because we see a lot of things that it's a lot of episodes that go backwards because we get a lot. Like the very first episode is a episode that takes place before one of your favorite episodes from season 1, Rookies, and it shows how they became the rookies that we see them in the show, and it has Heavy. And then the very next episode, they deal with the fact that Heavy died in Rookies. Yeah. And then there's some more episodes that are sort of backwards, like we see some Cad Bane stuff that takes place before the season finale of season 1, which was...
In that episode, Clone Cadets, we also get a closer look at Cut Up, and I'm still wondering what happened to that boy in his growth jar, because why is he the only clone that's Irish?
Yeah. And poor 99.
Oh, 99.
Yeah, but yeah, this was definitely the Secrets Revealed season.
Alright. Your favorite episode. Your favorite.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound like a bad guy, but it's the bad guy episode with Savage and Ventress. I mean, honestly, that whole arc, I can't pick a favorite episode out of that arc. I'd have to say the entire arc. I mean, it was just a good arc seeing Ventress sort of grow as a character, because we'd seen her as a one-note villain, and the original Clone Wars series sort of just killed her off.
They brought her in for like 2 episodes.
Yeah, and then they were like, okay, you were a one-note villain that was just meant to make Anakin evil.
You die.
Whereas this one, we sort of see her starting to become more than just a villain, which leads into a book that we're going to review later on, Dark Disciple. And we sort of see her start her, well, she doesn't start her bounty hunter career yet, but she will.
She will.
What was yours?
I think I'm like you. I have to pick an arc, not an episode. And for me, it's the Mortis arc.
Okay, yeah.
It's the Mortis arc, because those 3 episodes, in my opinion, are the highest intensity episodes that we've come across. And it's extremely... I like it because they managed to put so much intensity in there when they're only focusing on 3 characters.
Yeah.
Then you're able to do that without having like a whole big battle going on.
Yeah, and it's sort of the Star Trek episode in the sense that it deals more with the philosophy of things, rather than being you don't really think of Star Wars as a philosophy. Like, I mean, you sort of do with the Force, but you don't really think about it that much. When you think philosophy in science fiction, you think Star Trek usually.
And then they introduce these 3 characters that are essentially the embodiment of the Force.
Yeah, whereas the father is sort of he's the balance, whereas son is dark and daughter is light, but you also get a feeling that it's more to them than that. Mm-hmm. Like, you can see that the son might have some light in him if he tried, and the daughter might have some dark in her, because she she even wants to if I remember correctly, she wants to kill.
She's the one who needs Obi-Wan to get the dagger that can kill the sun.
Yeah, so that's a pretty dark thing for someone that's light to want to do. So it sort of makes you think about it a little bit more.
And since you brought up the Ventress arc with the Night Sisters, I have to bring up, there is a theory going around that Mother Talzin actually was the mother to complete the Force user family.
Okay.
Yeah, there actually is a theory around that, because, like, there's the father, the daughter, the son, but we never see the mother.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that Mother Talzin was actually the mother.
And she has been around long enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's sort of like Valkorian in that she just doesn't die.
She really doesn't!
I mean, we're going to talk about it later, but she comes back in Season 6. And then she comes back again in a comic that's canon. And then she finally dies in that. So she's died the same amount of times as Valkorian. So, I mean, and she did it in less amount of time.
Way less amount of time.
I mean, at least Valkorian had at least a couple thousand years on him. And
Talzin, not so much.
That we know of, anyways. So, I mean, it could be true. I mean, I also like the idea that Darth Maul, who's going to come in next season, I mean, we sort of get a lead into it at the end of this season, so, I mean, I'm not really spoiling anything. It's revealed that he's Mother Talzin's actual son, like, birth son.
Wait, when was it revealed?
It was in one of the comics.
Oh, okay.
It was in the canon comic that I talked about where she comes back again. It sort of revealed that he was her legitimate son, and Sidious stole him.
Yeah, and that's actually why it's like all of those things she did. She was never interested in helping Ventress. She just engaged this elaborate scheme to get her son back.
It's not just that. It's even a scheme to get Palpatine back. Because if you go deeper into it, the reality was that Palpatine was going to originally team up with Mother Talzin, and they were going to be the two Sith. But instead, he was like, "Oh, I like your son. I'm going to kidnap him." And so that's how that happened. So that's why Talzin just hates everybody that's involved in that plot, and so that's why she sort of screws over Dooku in a sense. She's like, "Oh yeah, you want a new apprentice? I could give you a new apprentice, but it's gonna cost you something."
But it will cost you.
Yeah, essentially. Another good thing I liked about this season, I don't have a least favorite. I mean, it's hard to pick a least favorite this season. Because, like I said last time, this is the season that really kicks things off, in my opinion.
I do have one least favorite episode. I can't remember the name. It's the episode where Ahsoka's having to protect Padme from Aurra Singh.
Oh, Assassin.
No, actually, I was wrong. That's my second least favorite episode. I'm sorry. My least favorite is the one where C-3PO and R2-D2 get kidnapped by Cad Bane.
Okay, yeah.
That one is just like...
That one...
I realize that you're trying... It's like, I realize that you're trying to, like, set up the whole thing with Zero, but at the same time, it's like, this episode is kind of pointless.
I mean, you could sort of throw it away and say Sidious gave him the floor plans.
Yeah, seriously, Sidious probably could have given him the floor plans.
I mean, you could have thrown this episode away. It sort of reminded me of when
If Sidious can give Cad Bane a map of the Jedi Temple, why could he not have also given him a map of the Senate?
Yeah, although technically this wasn't a job for Sidious, unlike the Temple one was.
I don't care.
I mean, but I think Jabba would have the connections to be like, here's the plans.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean...
Jabba, with all the power that Jabba has, he's bound to have at least one senator in his pocket.
Yeah. It's sort of, I guess I have to agree with you, because, I mean, at the same time, I sort of like the episode, but, I mean, there's a lot worse episodes that are coming up with them.
I might have liked it a little more if R2-D2 didn't spend half the episode in a droid spa.
I think that was an interesting concept to have introduced.
A droid spa! The heck?
It's definitely better than...
And the whole time, R2-D2... The only reason they went out there is because Anakin decided to go shopping. Because Padme needs these berries for a cake.
Whereas Anakin could have probably done it himself.
And he probably would have had a lot less trouble.
Yeah. I mean, and Cad Bane would never have freed Zero. Although that's actually a pretty good storyline, because Quinlan Voss.
Because Quinlan Voss.
But, I mean... yeah, I can see why you don't like that episode. I don't like two episodes that we're going to talk about in Season 4 that have to do with C-3PO and R2. Because there's a 2-episode arc.
I know exactly which episodes you're talking about.
And I didn't like them.
I didn't like them either.
Because it reminded me in a bad way of the animated droid series that they did in the 80s.
Oh boy.
Which I like. I mean, as a kid, I liked that series. But now I see the cheese behind it, and it's like, oh, there's some hidden cheese here. Nah, I'm good.
Honestly, when I was watching those episodes, it was like, what is this?
It was like they were trying to revive the droid series and be like, hey, we're going to do a show just about T-3PO and R2 again.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that it doesn't work because they're the least... I mean, they're interesting, but not on their own.
Yeah, they are. They're interesting when they have other characters to play off of.
Yeah, and, I mean, the droid series, the only reason that worked was because the characters they were surrounded by were interesting, not them. Poor Anthony Daniels. But Quinlan Voss, I want to talk about Voss real quick. Okay, so this is leading into one of my favorite, this is a theory I've developed.
Oh, yes.
Of who Rey might be related to. Quinlan Voss. Because in episode 7, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it yet.
Shame on you.
Shame on you at this point, it's not our fault anymore. We can talk about it all we want. So, Rey
You had 4 months!
Rey has a vision when she touches the lightsaber, and she sees, for the most part, not stuff of her own. It's stuff that's connected to the lightsaber.
Like, she sees one of her own memories, but that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and Quinlan Voss has a similar ability, psychometry, which is whenever he touches something, he sees whatever object it's connected to.
Which, in this case, I think the only reason why Rey saw a bunch of extra stuff is because her ability hasn't been refined.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's interesting even more so when if you take in legend stuff that's not canon, that originally only Quinlan Voss's specific race could do that ability. Because he's not a human, he's a Kefar, if I remember the name of the race correctly. So, I think that's interesting, and I hope we see more of that ability. We get a little bit of it in Dark Disciple because it focuses on him. It's a book about him. We'll discuss that one in due time, but for the most, let's end things, I guess. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
So, what would you rate this season out of 5?
A 4.
4? I can't just say a 4 because I've done 4, and that was for season 1. I'd have to say like maybe a 4.7 or something.
4.7.
Something like that. It's better than season 1 and 2, but it's not quite a 5. It's not.
Ironically, I think the 5 would actually have to go to season 5, or is it season 4? One of the two.
Yeah.
When we look at those again, I'll decide.
Thank you everybody for watching Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I'd like to thank THR, Star Wars Newsnet, BioWare, and StarWars.com for being the sources of our stories this week. If you would like to send us an email, you can reach us at escaperealityfilms@gmail.com, so join in on the conversation there. Next week we'll be reviewing the 4th season of the Clone Wars. See you then.